So I am delighted to be here with the lovely Chantel from Aquarius Rising Africa 2 and Solutions with Aquarius Rising. Now, normally you'll see us both on a Friday live on alternate channels, but I have a family commitment this Friday. So we're pre-recording this, but we will be in the comments to look at your reactions and answer questions. So we're going to be talking about spiritual warfare today. It's such an important subject and got so many different layers to it. How are you doing, and why does this subject need to be spoken about?
Well, firstly, I'm actually doing great, thank you. As you can see, the winter is coming, so we're having a heck of a storm here and wind blowing for the last few days. So I'm hoping it's the winds of change, but you never know. But I'm really good otherwise, thank you. And Catherine, you know, we talk about spiritual warfare, and yes, I think this has become a buzzword in these communities of ours now, you know, and I refuse to put myself in the category of being a truther because I'm so not in that community. And I'm sorry, I don't care what anyone says, because that to me is just turned out to be the lying community, in my opinion, in many ways. But spiritual warfare for me has so many different layers, you know. I mean, we can take it in the biblical sense as well, of literally Jesus versus the devil, or whatever it might be in layman's terms. But I think it's so much more than that in the way that I see things operating. I think what I've noticed over the years is that it's like these guys have learned how to splinter us, you know, especially when we have, after the Zappity-Doodah day, we look at the splintering of families, of trust, of our communities, you know what I'm saying? So there's been so much division. And when we look at people like you, me, Bryce, and that's just the ones I'm going to mention on, my friend Jesse, even lately Caleb, you know, who are regulars on my channel as well. We are constantly under some form of attack. And it's often by the religious people, very, very often by religious people. And I just think that it's more an attack in so many ways on us, lies. We have the lies that are spread about the things that we do. That's all part of spiritual warfare. I'm often it goes through stages under spiritual attack in my dreams. They'll try and come for me in my dreams, you know, when they don't like what I'm doing. I've been threatened twice recently, you know, so there's that type of stuff that is that. But more so than anything, I really think on so many levels, it's also just infiltrating the chat rooms of our shows and starting nonsense there. I looked at my channel not too long ago and I went, there's something not right here. And it's not the ones that are going to come in on the attack. Yes, they are there too. It's the ones that are so sweet and so nice so often. The ones that come in and, you know, it doesn't look like they have an agenda. And then suddenly things go haywire. I've noticed this a few times now, and I just got that insight after meditating very, very strongly. So, you know, for me, it's on all sorts of levels. Spiritual attack can happen, or spiritual warfare can happen on so many levels. And I go back to what you and I often have these conversations about. It's really just keeping our vibration high, you know, and it's difficult. And I think part of, you know, especially when we're going through stuff like this, and part of that is just acknowledging that we're human. For me, that's even if I'm having a glum day and a down day because that's happened and my mom's not been well and what have you, we don't have to be vibing high all the time. We really just have to accept that we're having a down day and just blanket ourselves in God's love or source's love or the creator's love or call a good friend or something like that. You know, it's just about that. We do not have to always, and I think when we also don't put so much pressure on ourselves to be these high vibing queens at all time, that is also part of just being a human being and getting through tough times in the best way that we can. And we have to know that even during those tough times that we're experiencing, we are still divinely protected. It's always our intentions. As long as we don't stay in that glum space, that's important, right? But we, even in our down times, we are still divinely protected. That's, in a nutshell, that's my take on that.
I so agree. I mean, there's so many areas I want to pick up on there. I think, you know, spiritual warfare, I saw a little while ago, probably a month or two ago, that Greg Braden did a really good video breaking down 5D warfare, which was really, really well done. And I would really encourage people to go and look at that on Greg Braden's channel, because the first place where it starts, which this affects every single one of us, is the information warfare and the war in our minds. And what I find so ironic, and I keep using, when my daughter was at school, a very bitchy mum gave her a mug when she was about 8 years old saying evil genius, because they were jealous about how sporty she was. What a thing to give to an 8-year-old for a present. She might have been 8 or 9, I can't remember. But the evil genius sums it up, because what we've seen over the last few years, when we've all been talking and exposing a lot of these things that have been going on, and how the Rockefellers have corrupted the education system, the finance system, the food system, the medical system, the veterinary system, the entertainment and the news and everything, for every aspect of a society. It's like we have people that think they're superior because they understand we've been brainwashed like this, but then they're repeating parrot fashion stuff that comes out from the other side of things. So all we've done, and I'm not excluding myself from this. Please, when we're having these conversations, we're not trying to pretend we've got it all sorted. Please know that. But it is really interesting when you do take time to sit back and watch. And I think you picked up a couple of things I really want to pick up on. One, be cautious of the quiet ones, the little fairy types that present themselves as certain types. Sometimes, you know, the evil can come in through ways that you least expect it. And people are very good at putting a mask on. It's one of the traits of humans that we don't see particularly in other animals. Yes, you can have a chameleon can change their color to match with their environment, but what humans can do so beautifully is falsify our personalities, our intent, or use words as a spell. And we can do that really, really well. And it starts at a very early age. And actually, the way we've been taught to do that, what we've seen is, if we take the example of information control, one part of information warfare, control of our minds, to me fits very well into the spiritual warfare, because, you know, with spiritual warfare, for me, you've got the control of the mind, the heart, and the emotions. When you then get people, say most people in listening to discussions like this might really be aware that most of the science we've been fed is corrupt, a lot of it.
Right.
It didn't used to be. Like years ago, you even hear people like Bob Proctor, they all talk about the ether, they talk about Tesla, and then it got taken out. You know, whoever controls the present controls the history.
Right.
So these things got taken out of our conversations. But what we're not realizing, and I just don't understand where this missing link's gone, because it's so obvious for all of us on here, is like, the algorithms, the AI are really clever. We've now got all these different alternative platforms, and thank goodness for them. But look at Tucker Carlson, his signal was hacked. Anyone thinks that these platforms are safe is delusional. But people don't check anything out anymore, because we know that science is corrupt, history is corrupt. We've almost gone the other thing, and at a click of a button, we can share anything that's made up about anyone and change people's perceptions. And there's this bit about human personality where if you say it enough times, it becomes truth.
Right.
No smoke without fire. We're seeing this play out in all levels, aren't we? From the most prominent world leaders, and we're putting them as leaders in inverted commas, to what's happening in our community.
Yes, absolutely. That is so true, you know, and it's so true what you're saying about, I call it, you know, the repetition is magic. Now, repetition in a good way, you know, if you, again, you know, when you start doing your affirmations and you're changing your perceptions, that's very important in a good way too. But they've learned how to do the mind control. And you know what's big for me as well, Catherine, is that we've got to stop looking at all of these terrible Rothschilds and Rockefellers and what have you, and making them the problem. Because as long as we continue to make those the problem, and again, I'm going to reiterate what you were saying earlier, is that I don't take myself out of the equation, because rest assured, my channel is built on looking at the corruption and the disgusting things that, yes, the small percentage of the world does. But I've been saying for a long time that it's not going to be up to anyone to change or save us. We have to be the ones that decide we no longer choose that. You know, I believe that spiritually, we are all here for a purpose and a reason. And we're either going to carry on and talk about this and talk about that. And it's very good to acknowledge and understand what's going on. There's a big difference between educating yourself to what's going on and then saying, well, I don't actually choose to be part of that narrative anymore. This is what I choose. And then you have to recalibrate yourself. I mean, you know, look at your body as a vehicle. And look at your car, right? Your car can all be as shiny and beautiful on the outside, and it can have all the right whistles and things. But if that engine and all the inner workings of the car are not right, that car ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with us. Your body is the vehicle through which your spirit or your soul is going to express itself. And it's the vehicle through which we get to live our lives here on earth. And yes, is it a temporary vehicle? Absolutely. But we have to take care of what we're putting in and the inner workings. So in the inner workings, I mean, we've got to all believe that we're a Porsche, right? Or whatever it is, whatever the best vehicle is, you know, with the best battery and brain and whatever it is a car has inside of it, right? We have to be able to do that for our own self and not expect the big cars to come and pull us along and tow us and take us to where we want to be because our inner workings are not working. We have to be able to recalibrate, recreate that which is within us, and realize we have the power to make the change. And when we start hating on each other, and when we start speaking shit to each other, excuse my language, and when we start leaving disgusting comments in each other's YouTube channels and platforms and stuff, I mean, if you don't like what's going on, move on. If you don't like what you're seeing, scroll by, you know, but everyone gets so hooked in, and then the viewers are fighting with each other, and then, you know, crappy comments are left, and, you know, to me, it's a no-brainer. And the lies that get spread, I mean, to me, I've recently uncovered a whole bunch of lies that I was supposed to have done and said. I'm like, seriously? I don't even know what you're talking about.
I've got some similar ones for me, and trust me, I've got all the evidence of the actual conversations, and it's complete inversion. It's the easiest form of attack, isn't it, Chantel? To say to someone, if someone comes out first and said, this is what they did, just think twice, because it's a very known thing of quite often they're saying, like we say with all the people who we have called up until this point, the elites that we think are controlling us, you know, all in plain sight. So when people come out and make an attack like that, quite often it's because they know that they're the ones that have done that. It's really important for people to think, well, why? If someone's done their spiritual work or their self-work, or if they're just actually a nice person, why would they come out and do this? Why would they not just move on?
Exactly. Exactly. They can't. I mean, I think it's also, again, human nature to want to have our opinions out there or what have you. And yes, we all want our opinions out there, but part of discernment is knowing when to speak and when to shut up. When to step back from the war. I mean, there's this beautiful book by Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
It's called Manual for the Warrior of Light. And in that, and it's like a little one-page short inspirations, I guess. You couldn't even call them stories, really. But in there it says, the warrior of light will know that when he's in war, when he's in warfare, there's a time when he steps back and goes to sort of recalibrate himself, sort of re-energize, refuel, basically. And if things aren't going right, then you step back and you go, okay, hang on, there's something not right with my team or my whatever it is, you know, and then you step back. And then when you've recalibrated, you go back again. You know, we've got to learn that to lie, firstly, to spread lies about another person, to elevate yourself, is the most dangerous thing you can do for you, because everything comes back to you tenfold.
Yeah.
That is a law of the universe. It's not even me that's going to send it back to you. I promise you. I've long ago learned taking revenge on someone or something is not something I choose. But I'm step aside and let the universe take care of that. I really do. You know, I'm not going to go after someone, but I'm also not going to just roll over and play dead. That's not in my nature. You know, I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to speak what is the truth for me and my experience, you know, without getting into some kind of a nonsensical battle. But we have to figure out for ourselves, you know, and for every person that is different. What are your boundaries?
Exactly.
You know, you have to stand up for yourself in this world, in my opinion. You know, you're not just going to roll over and say, oh, well, God's going to take care of it for me. I'm just going to sit here and, you know, I mean, I don't agree with that. I absolutely, along with knowing you are spiritually strong, but then you've got to act on your belief as well. It's walking your talk, right? And how you do so is up to you. You can do so with a toxic tongue, or you can do so from a very calm, aligned space, right? You don't have to go and fight and be toxic as well. That's what I'm saying. I think we've got to learn individually. We have to learn that boundary for ourselves. What do we need to do? How do we need to be in this moment? And different moments are going to call for different things. Stop lying about people. Stop speaking shit. Stop, you know, getting involved in this gang stalking. Because there are too many religious, yes, exactly, the 4 agreements, and that's the 5th agreement. Because the minute you know, be impeccable with your word.
It's so simple. The same core principles come back time and time again. And
right.
How we behave on this micro level, if we call it, on our relationships in our everyday lives, or, you know, on comments on YouTube, is a reflection. You know, we're all fractals of the greater good. It's a reflection of exactly what we're criticizing that's happening on a bigger scale. If we can't sort out the conflict and agree to disagree, I mean, it's absolutely fine to disagree with someone. It's absolutely fine to not even particularly like someone. But there's a big difference between saying, I've decided you're not someone I want to spend time with, to then pouring energy into negativity about that. And I think it is, I suppose it's just part of our human learning curve. I've just finished recording, which will be up sometime this week, a really lovely interview on empathic animal communication with a lady I've had on my channel a couple of times. She is incredible, absolutely incredible. She's Swedish and she's so eloquent. It's amazing. And she had such beautiful points in terms of, you know, when an animal is abused by a human, they don't want to be with that human anymore. They don't want to be in that situation. But they're not sitting there with hate and vengeance.
Right.
They react with violence for self-protection, which is completely different to vengeance.
Yes.
They don't have. And when you have, that, when Bryce and I spoke to Cathy O'Brien and someone, and with all the work that you've done speaking to survivors, when someone's been through something really traumatic, and they've really done the work themselves, they're not coming from a place of vengeance. They're coming from a place of awareness, education, shine the light on the dark, which is a completely different energy from vengeance.
Exactly. You know, and it's that's exactly it. And I love what you were saying about the animals, you know, who they'll just choose to not be with you. They'll choose to run big circles around you rather than go and sit and cuddle on your lap or something like that, right? They know that you are not a safe person to be with because they've lost their trust in you. And oftentimes that is how we learn. We have to understand that not everyone can be trusted, but that's how we learn as well. And that doesn't mean you now have to go and be back with that person and forgive them, because forgiveness doesn't mean that you go back into the same toxic situation. Forgiveness means you choose to, let's say, let that burning coal that you're holding of non-forgiveness, you let it go. Because the only person getting burnt is you, but you move on. You understand that unless they prove otherwise. And I am a great believer. People can change, and people do change. When people grow and they heal, they definitely do change. I've seen enough of that. You know, where the saying goes, where people say a leopard doesn't change its spot, I disagree. I'm saying, you know, if people have done the right, you know, work on themselves, they've seen the error of their ways. I've changed. I mean, if you have to take me 30 years ago to the way I am now, I mean, and you want to hold me hostage to the way I was 30 years ago, I was immature, a lot more immature. I was a lot more hurt. I hadn't worked through many of my issues yet, you know. I was still a lot more reactive to situations. You can't hold me hostage the way I was then to the way I am now, you know, and that's the point I'm making. I've seen I can change in certain things. The essence of Chantel is still there. You know, the essence of me is there. It's just wiser, stronger, more conscious, or whatever it might be, right? So I also like to give other people the benefit of the doubt, but you've got to allow your intuition to guide you and your experiences to guide you as well, right? So you know you will bounce back from negative situations. It's that simple. But the bottom line is, you know, when we look at these things, in these situations, Catherine, on these platforms, we are dealing with so much deception out there. There is just so many people, because it's obviously that we're dealing with the topics that a lot of people have no idea of how to deal with mostly. There's a lot of infiltration. Yes, we're dealing with the highest level of sorcery and witchcraft and stuff like that. There's no getting away from that. We know that. But you know, we have to understand that we too are absolutely more powerful than that. And it doesn't mean we've now got to become witchcraft in return and start casting spells or whatever it is that they do. No, it's just about knowing I'm protected from that. I have the power that's going to guide me through these crazy situations. And I am completely strong and aligned with a much greater force. And that is my protection. And when you're in your truth, that, you know, and that's that saying that says the truth shall set you free. You know, when you're in your truth, it doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. It just means that the truth reveals itself to you, because lies and truth are like oil and water. You know, it's like if you take half oil, half water, and you shake it, it's all mixed up, but then you put the jar down, and soon enough, it's going to separate. Often at the moment, I often feel like we're in this shaky jar, and just to be still and be in that moment, we're going to see how the oil and the water separate. And that's what I was saying earlier on, you know. It's taken 2 years for me to figure out the lies that were spread at one point. I'm not going to go into the detail, but for me, that's a really beautiful situation of just leaving it be. I knew stuff was up. I knew but I was not going to go digging. Sorry, I don't do that. And I know that every time something is supposed to come to me, the truth will always reveal itself.
And then Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. I love the oil and water analogy, Chantal, because it's such a good one. It really makes sense. And I think this is where, we're not meant to be the same people in our 50s. We're the same age as we were when we were teenagers. It'd be, there's a reason why you go through different stages. And I love the fact of letting things settle. We've all been told in work situations, in personal situations, if you're wanting to respond back from a place of anger, hurt, angst, fear, just wait 24 hours and then respond the next day. And
Right.
this is such a great lesson for all of us and for everyone. There's a couple of things I want to say. For people do change. So when we're looking on a grander scale of public figures, have they been connected to this? And yeah, absolutely, possibly, but it doesn't mean they're in that mindset now. Time will tell. And when we keep that awareness and when we give ourselves that time, that space before responding to jump in, it will come to the surface. We're all going to have different opinions about who's good and who's bad. And what does that even mean? At what stage in their life are you labeling them as good or bad?
Exactly.
I think it's such an important skill for us to develop, because we still keep coming back to, and when I say we, I'm not really talking to this audience, to be honest. I'm talking about humanity, of like,
Yeah.
we behave in a way that we criticize, that we want to change. And I can't remember, I think it was Buckminster Fuller sort of said, if you want to change the world, you can't tear down the old system, you build a new one that's so good that the old one just disappears. And that's
Exactly.
exactly what happens. It's what happens in relationships. It's what happens in nature. And if we could all just shift our focus, it is human nature. We've been bred into it. Look at how many gossip channels there are on TV. Look at how many whole reality TV is generally set up to name and shame and ridicule at what people
Absolutely.
say. So I'm not blaming people for behaving like that. I can see exactly why we do, but equally, when you know better, we do better. And every time someone does that or makes a judgment about who's good or who's bad, who said what, like the standard joke is me, oh, I'm unfollowing you because you're still speaking to this person. Well, it's no different to what we've criticised people talking about the vaccines, who said, they wouldn't let us in the house because we were unvaccinated, or us laughing at them because they were in a fear state and wearing a mask. It's the
Right.
same behaviour. It's just this mirror being put up to us all the time. And the sooner we realise that, the sooner we can just zip it a bit, let it separate and see what does show itself up.
Absolutely. It's so true. It's so true. And it's amazing that when we let that the everything just settle, it's amazing how the answers just pop into consciousness, isn't it? Isn't that true? You say, and I love what you say, leave it for 24 hours. And I've learned to do that. I was recently having an altercation with one of my sisters. And I have to say, my mom not being well has changed that
Yeah.
in an amazing way, because she came to visit and I was like all grumpy about the fact that like she's going to be here and how am I going to deal with her? And, and I just said to me, and I was actually praying about it. I always like pray and I meditate. And I just let it be. Just, act like you always did 2 years ago, because we always got on extremely well together. And then something happened and we had a glitch and we haven't been able to really see eye to eye. And it was amazing how this situation just brought us together. And there we were before long having a bottle of wine, talking shit.
Great
And
healer. That bottle of wine is a great healer. I don't care what anyone says.
exactly. I'm not a big drinker at all, but there are just times when that bottle of wine is just the thing that one needs. And there we were, just back to normal again. And it's just like, is that crap really necessary? It's not necessary, because when, I mean, there are certain things that I agree that one needs to be able to talk about, but then you got to say, okay, let's find a time, because my feelings were hurt here, and and I know yours probably were too. So let's just find a time and a space where we can both just speak without trying to hurt each other, because we love each other more than what we want to hurt each other. It's that simple. And, you know, I just find if we can do that more and more with ourselves and with the ones we love that are closest to us, it becomes easier to do it with those around us, like, etc. I often wonder, you know, when people leave hateful comments, and really that's going back to the actual spiritual warfare thing, you know, and this gang stalking, because I have a lot of that gang stalking. You know, there's a lot of these people, and they're all these religious nuts. You know, I always say God wants spiritual fruit, not religious nuts. But I find it's like a lot of these religious nuts that come together, and they think they're doing the world a favor. Meanwhile, the lies that they are spreading. I mean, now I've been accused of being a child trafficker in Africa. You know, I mean, like, it's so unnecessary to say stuff like that. But, you know, when people were threatening me as well, I say, you know, I hope you realize that the words that are coming out of your mouth now will return to you tenfold. They won't affect me, but they're going to come back to you tenfold, not because I choose them to come back to you tenfold, because that's what you are attracting for yourself. You are creating that. And we all do that. You know, and it's how we deal with that. And what I've learned and learning, this platform has made me, I'm a very sensitive person. Hard to believe, I know, with a lot of people they think I'm out and tough, but I'm super sensitive. You know, when you're working with people as a healer, you would know the same thing. You are super sensitive to picking up on their vibrations. Absolutely. So rest assured, it's when it comes to your own stuff, or in my situation, when it's come to my own stuff, it's been very hard for me to not take things personally and not be reactive, because I've always said, you know, my issue in life really is being reactive, and that's because I can get oversensitive. But if this platform has taught me anything, it's about learning how not to be overly sensitive and how not to take things so personally. I'm getting there. I'm getting better all the time, you know, but I still think to myself, how the hell do you say something like that to another person? I mean, it's like, you know, when you see some of these hateful comments and this gang stalking and stuff out there, it really is, to me, how the hell do you even think that it's okay to say stuff like that? I mean, I'm always told I'm wearing a scarf because I'm hiding my Adam's apple.
Well, I don't know what that says about me. Yeah. I think also it's really interesting to see the level of hurt that most people are carrying with them that comes out in their comments. So,
absolutely,
you know, what we're seeing in what we've seen, say, in the YouTube community, because that's why people are listening to us, because we all joined this community and started speaking at the same time, and listeners in this bubble with us all. We're all in this together, sort of thing. When you see how desperate for fame people are, the people that are really desperate for fame in this, and numbers, and this makes me special. It's so interesting to see how they then behave about exactly the same as the people that they've been criticized that got them in that place in the first place, and how
exactly.
People can be manipulated to behave in a different way. You can see it a lot in some of the places. I've got one interview I'm thinking of, and I won't mention any names. Well, I could see this person was uncomfortable about where they were being led, but they went along for it anyway, because so many people are so desperate to belong, to be friends. And isn't this how we get humanity in such a mess in the first place? You know, when we're coming back to spiritual warfare, for one of the key things for that to me is when you know, and you're the only one that can know this, no one else can know this for you, when you know that what you're doing is against your core values. Think back to the person you were when you were a child. You know what you knew. Children know the difference between right and wrong, real right and wrong. You know, the law of the earth, the law of God, not admiralty law. We know, you can see it. And if you're choosing to go against that, as you said, the universe will put it back to you. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And my humanness, there's a few people I'm quite looking forward to seeing it. There is a kind of, again, this is what I'm saying. I'm not pretending I'm over this behavior at all, but it is quite interesting when you sort of look at it and you're thinking, okay, the universe, we're ready now.
It's so true. And, you know, it was very interesting. I was having an interview with Kerry Saint, and we were talking about the true mark of the beast. And it's not, you know, and I've always known it's not a chip. It's not this, it's not that, it's something. It really is a space that we ourselves, firstly, the Antichrist system is an entire system. The beast system is an entire system that has been moving on for a very long time. It's like, you know, and it really is, you know, the ultimate or the end result for me of that conversation was understanding that, you know, yes, they bring in Sunday law. And basically, if the way you're not allowed to do anything on a Sunday, and if you do, it's tickets for you. And that is when you understand God, the creator. I always say, my God does not punish. The God I serve does not harm, does not want sacrifices, does not want you to hurt animals, does not want us to eat animals, whatever. It's always our choice. God will always meet us where we as humans are, right? But and my God is not angry because God and God hates nothing because God understands everything. He understands the nature of the human, you know. So when we make choices to go down a dark path, God actually understands that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. And you hit the nail on the head there and that's when the spiritual warfare ends, because spirit is obviously that part of us which is invisible, but aligned to something much greater than who we are in our human bodies, right? And it's that integrity that we have within ourselves to say yes to that which is right and no to that which doesn't feel right for us. And as you were saying, you could see somebody was being led down a path where they were clearly uncomfortable because they felt the need to belong. How many people do that? And where do they end up? It's the same thing when they got the jab, you know, took it because they were scared they were going to lose their job or couldn't travel anymore, or so many people knew in their hearts that that was not the right thing for them to do.
Yeah.
And right now I'm hearing that so far around 20 million people have lost their lives on this planet from that, and a lot more that have been affected by ill health. And the people,
Chantel, sorry to interrupt, but I would just want to on that point, really important. When you look at epigenetics and when you look at the placebo effect and the nocebo effect, we'll have another whole wave as it's coming out in public, because in the UK it's coming out big time now. You know, we've just got a new person who's been elected in, and it's incredible. But imagine the implications of this for the people that knew deep down there was a bit of it that were uncomfortable. Once they get their worst fears, we're going to see another wave of things coming out.
exactly.
Because nocebo, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So again, tick for the evil geniuses. This is where we've got to say to people when it does come out, but don't worry, there's stuff you can do about it. Do not panic. Everyone's who gets to our age without having made silly choices in their life?
Exactly.
We were just lucky we didn't have mobile phones when we were teenagers.
I'm so happy that we did not have that photographs taken. Oh no, gosh. I mean, I remember photographs being taken of some ridiculous times, and I'm just very grateful that no one has copies.
Yes.
Because I'd be in trouble. Right, but it's so true, you know, and we can come back from crappy decisions, and that's what we have to do. You know, there's nothing more empowering than an apology. If I know I've wronged you, and for me to go and say, Catherine, I cocked up, I'm sorry. I mean, firstly, for me, it's a liberating thing to be able to apologize to you, and I'm sure for you it's really also a good sense of acknowledgement of say, wow, you know, it feels good to have someone apologize when they know, because an apology to someone is not an easy thing. Let's face facts. It's not easy to apologize. Our egos are like ginormous usually. And they don't like to apologize because none of us really like to be wrong. But it's not about, I'm sorry, you'll never, I'm sorry. That's not, I'm sorry, won't happen again. I'm sorry, won't happen again. That's not an apology. An apology is really actually thinking about it and saying, wow, I wronged this person. And I'm sorry that I did that. I have a lot of regret for being a dumbass. So let me apologize. And that is a meaningful apology. You know, for me, that's what in the Christian word would be your repentance.
Yeah.
You know, to apologize, acknowledge you've done something wrong, and then change your ways. Not do that again, or try not to do it again. You know, be conscious that that is not something that has the best results, right? At the end of the day. So it really is about us being in our integrity, apologizing when we've cocked up and when we've hurt somebody, choosing to not go down that road again, and really joining forces and, you know, with those that, you know, have good values, because those of us who have good values, and the more of us who join hands and link arms that have good values, we're the ones that are going to win this spiritual war. Really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. You know, it's a fight for power.
Yeah.
And power really is not about how strong and how big my muscles are. It's about how much compassion I have, how much understanding I have, how much kindness I have in me, how much truth I have in me. You know, for me, truth is the winner. When you can be true to yourself, and that does not mean in an egoistic way. Being true to yourself says, yes, Chantal, you made a mistake. Fix it. It's not about, yes, I need to be true to myself and follow my dream and run off on a holiday with my lover while I'm married. You know? I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. It's about recognizing where you've made a mistake, where you need to change your ways, where you can change your ways, where you actually need to put your egoistic needs aside for a moment and consider the bigger picture. And when we can do that, I think we've won the spiritual war, Catherine. That's my opinion, because then we don't connect with people anymore who are liars, two-facers, whatever. Those people find themselves, you know. And in our humanness, I think we are all just also finding our way to that place. And every time, and I mean, I know we've had this conversation before, but I can certainly speak for myself here. Every time I find this, and it's amazing how many people I've experienced lately that have told lies or not been honest about things have actually come to me and apologized. My son being one of them, actually, because he had a very wrong narrative in his head about certain things. He had lots of dates in his childhood mixed up, and he thought, I said, no, my love, because he also came to visit. No. And I said, that was the date that happened. That was the date that happened. And you can't dispute that. You were that old then. So it didn't happen when you were then. And he went, wow, Mom, I've been wrong for a long time. I'm sorry about that. My head wasn't right. I said, cool, as long as we can move forward from here. And that's actually an amazing thing, because I know that that was a big thing for him. But the minute he figured the dates out, he wasn't confused about how things played themselves out when he was ningly. That's little, by the way. Everything changed for him. I could see the light in his eyes go on. And from that moment, our relationship took on a different turn as well. And we have had a challenging relationship. You know, we're both very strong-headed people. I was a single mother. His father was never involved in his life. And I, in many ways, had to be mother and father. And that's where I got things wrong, because he couldn't quite discern what he was going to get from me, mom or dad, tonight, you know. And we had that conversation as well. And that opened up a lot of things. And that's why I say, you know, when it comes to the personal things, it's these personal conversations, the ones we hold heaviest on our hearts. If we can resolve that, it opens up the pathway for a whole lot of other things to start changing as well. I've really Yeah, I've
That's
understood
where
that.
we should be putting our attention, because it's
Yeah,
just a displacement behavior, and we all do it because it's a self-protection mechanism that we humans have, where it's much easier for us to project our attention onto something that's not really important than to deal with those deep-seated issues that could really make huge changes, not only in our own lives, but then the ripple effect that will come out for that. And yeah, I think it's a time to drop the revenge, drop the lies, the gossiping, and let's just create. Let's just create
absolutely.
things. You know, AI's here. Let's program it how we want it, not how they want it,
Exactly.
you know.
And you know, as much as what AI is available to our dark brethren, it's available to us as well.
Completely. And it's purely programmable. So it's up to us. If
Exactly.
we're not getting what we want from it, then that we got to
We
do.
create what we want from it because we
Yeah.
are creators. You see, when we walk in the light of God, so to speak, we have the creative force that lives within us and flows through us
Yeah.
and is available to us, and we get to create. Remember, we must never forget, as human beings, we've come here, we are masterful creators and we are masterful manifestors. And that's what the dark energies can't do. They can't manifest and they can't create.
Yeah.
So they emulate everything. They need us to manifest for them. So that's why they do this predictive programming stuff that they put out there, because where energy flows, attention goes, right? So when they're doing the Simpsons stuff and they want us to pretty much create their predictive programming for them by going, ooh, that's going to happen then. Ooh, that's going to happen. They know exactly how to do it. But when we go, no, I don't think so, this is what's going to happen. And we put our minds towards recreating this world. That's when I think nature will take care of everything. Remember, I mean, God would be the masculine element, or the invisible masculine element, whereas Mother Nature is the feminine element. It's where things are born, things are birthed, right? Things are created through nature. So that's the feminine element. So then nature takes care of the things which are no longer in harmony with her energy and her essence. And those of us who are in harmony with nature will then continue to create and recreate with her. And life is very forgiving, you know, nature is very forgiving. Our bodies are very forgiving. I mean, you know yourself, when, you know, our cells recreate themselves and renew themselves all the time. And if you, no matter what health issue you're in right now, it's available to you to renew your body. That is what's the miraculous energy essence of the human being. We are really.
And it's
So
not the cake you bake is different, you know, and are you going to choose the best quality ingredients to nurture you? Or cake might not be the best example, but would make me happy. Or are you going to choose cheap, crappy, awful, synthetic, toxic ingredients? And this is exactly what we're doing every stage of our life, but we can keep recreating it, as you say. And so, you know, it's not over until the fat lady sings, as they say. So don't forget, and nature is forgiving to us, but nature's waiting for us to wake up and start using this creativity from here and here in alignment for the good, not to keep doing the creating the bad for them. Oh, I love that conversation. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Let us know what you think below. And if you're tempted to leave something nasty, just wait for 24 hours. Then write a comment.
Just wait for 24 hours. Think about it.
24 hours and think about it first. Yeah. So yeah, love it. Any final words, Chantel?
You know, Catherine, I really have enjoyed this conversation. I think it's been very fulfilling for me as well. And I really, and I just want to say thank you that we can have these weekly conversations, because I really, really do enjoy them. And you know, let's think about things. Let's think about how we want to act. If it's in a way that is not, we know when we're angry, it's not a good time to act or react, rather. So think about your actions. Maybe even it might not be 24 hours, 10 minutes. Take a breath, walk around the block quickly, come back, and then see how you want to deal with the situation. The more of us who do that, the better it's going to be collectively, for sure.
Perfect. And if you need reset, just look up cat videos on Instagram and then you'll be
Yeah, aren't they wonderful? There's a wonderful
reset your
cat called
energy.
Chase.
I know everyone sort of says, oh, you shouldn't spend time. And yeah, you don't need to spend all day looking at them. But if you want a quick reset into a more positive state of mind, just look up cat videos.
Absolutely. The best. There's a cat I've recently discovered, speaking about that. Fifi and Kareem, Kareem, it's a husband and wife. They've got these 3 cats. The one cat is called Chase. I've never in my life come across a cat like this. It's like a baby. And she explains how she got him when he was a few weeks old, literally had to be bottle fed. He hugs her, he talks to her. When he doesn't like what she's saying, he puts his paw there and he hugs her and he goes, no, yes, whatever, it is hilarious. They are beautiful. And yes, I think absolutely when we're doing this type of work, I definitely will go for half an hour sometimes and I just watch this.
Exactly.
It's beautiful. And I say to my cats, why aren't you like that? Come, let me hug you. No.
Oh, I must say I've got some very cuddly cats. Not all of them, but they're all gorgeous in their own way. But I do like my cuddle cats, I must say. So yeah.
I want a cuddle cat. My cats are not cuddle cats. I want cuddle cats.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We really can't wait to see. We will be back. This will be going up on Friday. We'll be back next week on Chantel's Solution with Aquarius Rising Africa. So come and join us then. Thanks a lot.
Indeed. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. God bless you all.